How's it going, Internet? Welcome to another episode of TikToks. I am Ricardo, and today I'm joined by my good friend SisterlyThrower, and we're going to be talking about kind of what they do. They have this kind of, what would you call it, like a content block or like a, yeah, it's just like conversational topics surrounding psychology, and it's called The Video Game Therapist, where you go through and you analyze a video game character and see, what they could possibly have, give them a formal diagnosis, and I'm sure that I didn't do it justice, so go ahead and let's just start out. Just give us a rundown of kind of what you do.
No, that's actually the best description I think I've ever had anybody else give of what I do. That's good.
Nice.
Good.
We're in.
It is the video game therapist. It is something that I wanted to really serve a couple of different purposes, really. It was, on the one hand, you're right, looking at video game characters and actually from a very cookie cutter approach, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
It's when I first open up a game, play through the intro, I tell people, this is my assessment. This is when I'm looking at a person and saying, okay, are there symptoms here? Are there concerns here? What are my clinical opinions? Can I write this up into a diagnosis? I actually take people into the
process.
The book I thought I had around me, but I guess I don't.
Oh, lack of props.
I know. The one prop I have, and I don't even have it. The DSM-5, which is what we mental health folks use to diagnose people and take people in and try to peel back some of the secrecy that's around, what are the mental health diagnoses out there.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted it to serve a couple of different purposes, be educational, be fun to watch. I'm horrible at what I play, so of course I'm falling off cliffs, I'm killing people I'm not supposed to, I'm having all sorts of fun.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
It's fine. You didn't need your children. And peeling back some of those.
Hold on. I'm just picturing now. You're just walking up and you're just playing something. You're just accidentally fighting some bad guys and just collateral damage of like 3 kids. And I see your characters walking and be like, sorry. You know what? Your first grief consultation's on the house. Just here's my number. Just give me a ring.
Yeah.
We'll work it out.
Pretty much. I mean,
holy, what a flawless business strategy.
Yeah. I cause the trauma and then I counsel people through the trauma. See, I'm creating my own supply and demand.
Genius. Anyways, sorry to cut you off, but
no, that's okay. In my daytime work, I am actually a full-time therapist, and one of the things that I run into with a lot of clients and families that I work with is either through usually through no fault of their own, there's just a lot of unknowns about the mental health field. I get, families bringing their kids to me saying, my kid really needs help, but they have no idea what the help looks like, and, interacting with insurance companies and diagnoses and how diagnoses follow people over time. Nobody really knows about a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in talking about it through a game character, I'm gesturing to my monitor, which no one can see.
But the prop is there. It's just off screen, folks.
Improvement. Absent prop off screen. Eventually, I'll have a prop like a pen. In talking about it in a non-threatening manner, I'm not calling you out specifically, audience member. I am talking about who did I do last? I did Joel.
From The Last of Us.
Joel from The Last of Us franchise, looking at trauma and his ability to recover from that trauma. So I'm not talking about you. I'm not trying to call, audience members out for how they're dealing with their own trauma, but they get that perspective from a mental health professional saying, this is how we counsel people through trauma. These are what these diagnoses mean.
Yeah.
This is what we're looking at over the treatment episode.
I'm sure that sometimes, like having this video game character, sometimes people could even use it as a stand-in, right? Like if someone was, say, watching and they had some recent trauma or grief, and there's like, wow, maybe a lot of what they're saying, maybe that's what I do too. Like maybe I should, maybe I should talk to someone. Right. Maybe I should seek help. Or maybe, they might stumble upon I can do this to feel better, right? Like if you recommend some sort of treatment or some exercise for how to deal with whatever the character's going through, maybe they could be like, oh, wow, I can do that. So that's really cool. I think it's really interesting that there's stuff like that out there. And so I guess I was going to first talk about how long you've been streaming for, but I think this question I want to get to first. What made you want to do psychology and video games like in conjunction in the first place?
How much time did you say we have? No. That's a bit of a tale.
Okay.
I'll try to shorten it though to a reasonable time frame.
We'll work with it.
Essentially, I found myself going through a sort of informal, rough draft version of that myself in my own personal life.
Okay.
I was able to. Well, I wasn't able to. I had people around me who knew that I liked games because I've liked games ever since I can remember. But people around me, like my father, like various teachers and mentors that I've had, have seen the love that I had for games and were able to give me suggestions on how to use games in a way to better my own mental health. You know, games as a coping skill, and games as, you know, ways of dealing with my own grief of like losing family members throughout my life. That was my first experience with it, and it worked so powerfully in my own life that I had to imagine, you know,
it could work for someone else too. Yeah,
that would get some use out of it. So I really tried to turn that personal experience into something that I could bring to other people.
No, and that's relatable because I do the same, right? I've been playing games of all kinds since I can remember. One of my earliest memories is me playing a game, not a video game, but there was this. I was born in Puerto Rico, and one of my earliest memories that I can remember is me sitting in my grandma's kitchen. There was like a metal bucket in front of me, and I was fishing with like a little toy fishing rod, little toy fishes. And so they were just sitting in the kitchen, you know, and they were magnetic, and so it was a magnetic fishing rod and a magnetic little fish, and I was just doop.
That's awesome.
And that's just one of the earliest memories I have.
Right.
But you know, with that, video games has always been kind of a constant in my life. The more I grew of it, I got a PS2 and I played that stuff, and you know, more and more to this day, I can see that they were a sort of escape. Right. I played fantastic, you know, space stories like Mass Effect or Skyrim or something like that, so I could put myself in the hero's position. I wanted to be a hero, and I got to live through that, you know, personal fantasy through video games. And as we're talking, I might think that maybe like I play card games, and recently I've gotten really back into card games, and I think the reason I like them is because card games give me some sense of control over randomness, right? I feel like I have a bunch of stuff going on, and not a lot of it's up to me. But with card games, I can pick what cards are in my deck, what options I have, right? I notice that myself personally, I get analysis paralysis a lot. If I have too many options, I'll sit here and I'll overthink every single one in comparison so I can pick the best option.
That's very common, yeah.
So if I can limit my options, I feel a lot better. And sometimes I feel really good when like my internet goes out, for say, and I'm like, dang, my internet's out. I can't hang out with this person. I can't like play this video game. Wow, all I can do is like do work. I guess I'm doing work, and like work that I dreaded doing earlier, I'm just super happy to do now because I have no other choice. So I'm pretty content with having to do stuff, but so it's just weird like that. But that's cool. I really like the fact that there's content like this out there, and it's also cool that, you know, one of my friends happens to be making the content, so I can check it out and I can ask questions about it.
Definitely. I welcome all questions.
So let me hit you with this one. This one's not so much of psychology, but how long have you been streaming for?
I actually remember the exact date. That was July 1st of 2018.
Wowie. I know that. I think it was there for your second anniversary.
Yes, you were. You were there. And
I remember because I was like, it wasn't very long after we had met that I was like, oh, it's your anniversary. That was cool.
Right. July 1st, 2018. I didn't have a capture card. I was using the integrated ability to stream directly to Twitch from my Xbox at the time.
Oh.
I was playing Goat Simulator.
Oh
That was
gosh.
my very first game, like right off the rip.
I have such a love-hate relationship with the Goat Simulator, because it's I don't know, man. It just showed up at a period of time in my life where I was like, I could spend so long playing this, but why would I? Like, I know I'm gonna get nothing done. I will accomplish nothing, but it still tempts me. So
It does.
I swore off Goat Simulator for that. I'm still kind of like that with some games today. It's the biggest reason I won't play Minecraft. Last time I played Minecraft, I joined. I made a house that looked like a frog. I got 2 pet slimes, and I said, I've done everything I ever need to do in this game. I'll see you guys. As my friend likes to say, I'll see you next patch. And I was done. So,
Okay.
that's sweet to hear.
Yeah.
So how did this transition go, right? From Xbox to, like, now you're playing on PC, and how did that? No, you're still not on PC?
No. The last time I was on PC was with you and Turtle and Turtle's friend when we went through like Duck Game and.
Oh wow, I just realized that most of the stuff you play is just crossplay. So if we end up playing Warzone, we're playing crossplay, right? And so that's how we're doing stuff. That's crazy.
Yeah. Console all the way, baby.
I mean, that works. It works for me because every time we play, I can just Steam remote play stuff to you.
Right.
So it's fine. Barring my internet doesn't have, like, a shock or, some sort of random seizure. But we like to give the stream the internet good head pats, make sure it's loved, so it doesn't act up. Yeah, bring it in, internet. Bring it in, internet.
There we go.
That's sweet. So what's your experience with streaming been? How's streaming been going? Like, I know it's a very vague question.
Ooh.
But
like currently or like over time?
In general, over time, like over these 2 years, how'd you feel if this makes the question easier, how'd you start feeling about streaming comparatively to how you feel about it now?
You're the first person that's ever asked me this. Okay. It feels good. It feels good, honestly. I started just with the idea, when I first started back in like the Goat Simulator days, I had no idea that I was going to bring mental health work into it. That was just so far afield from where I was. When I started, I just wanted to give people a safe place to be. And I was playing a little bit of everything, and it felt good. I had a friend of mine who was unaware that I was streaming for like the first like 4 to 5 months that I was doing it. So like 5-6 months in, I happened to let it slip in a conversation. Not that I was trying to hide it from him. I didn't want to be that guy who like with family and friends was like, hey, check me out on Twitch.
Every time today I have to put something on Facebook that even remotely links to I make content or I make videos, watch me. I just like my body just like it just cringes inside itself because I just picture my like grandma tuning in to me going like, oh, PogChamp, and it just my bones, all my bones break. And
oh yes. So I let it slip to like friends like him, and he has been there pretty much every night since then, which has been awesome. And over time, even beyond giving people that safe place to be, when I started thinking about mental health work, I got messages from my professors when I was in graduate school at the time that said, therapy is a large part of therapy is giving people controlled like practice over the behaviors and things that they struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
Like agoraphobia, being afraid of those big out open spaces. You give them that controlled experience, says, okay, let's just open up the door and let's just hang out and chat. And realizing, especially in the day that we're in now with such strong narrative driven games with multiple endings and the ability to actually have your choices make an impact, when I realized that I could put those two together,
light bulb,
and give people that experience of saying, okay, based on these values, based on these traumas, this is what this kind of thinking leads to over this way. But if we're able to spin this and use some of these coping skills and practice and remind ourselves what's important in our own lives, we take it in a completely different direction, and we wind up with someone's life in a very different place than it was had we fed into some of that negativity and those negative behaviors. So being able to find that place to merge those two things together really filled me with a kind of energy that nothing else ever has before.
That's awesome.
I thought for a while that I had stumbled onto, something that I alone am doing, and I'm the only one out here, and yay!
There can only be one!
And then I found someone else doing similar stuff too. But it's really hard to put into words, so that's why I'm struggling right now.
No, it's okay.
It's one of the most meaningful things I've ever done.
That's really nice.
I'll be doing it as long as I have internet.
Which, as we learned, is a bit of a fickle thing without the hugs and the head pats. But
It is. My router sits on a little golden pillow, and I palm front
feed it to Ferrero Rocher chocolates every night.
Yes. Yes, of course.
And it's really nice to hear about finding a passion like this. And I've been told multiple times and by different people that passion is attractive. It pulls people towards you, right? And right. I don't just mean a relationship sense, although that can happen too, right? I was told that my most current, the most current love of my life, she told me that she liked me because I was passionate about what I was doing. And she thought that was cool, and she
yeah.
And little did I know, I was just living my life, and maybe sometimes that's all it takes, right? Just live your life. But
absolutely,
not to get into too much of that. I think that there's points in our life when something happens where we have to make some sort of decision based on how we're gonna accept or deny or react to something, right?
Sure.
And this could be entirely personal, right? Because I only have my own personal experience to it. But when I was younger, I especially junior high and stuff, I lived in an abusive home, right? And it sucked. And majority of the time when I tell people, it doesn't come up often, right? Because it's not something I don't have it tattooed across my forehead. Most people might not even realize that's something that ever happened to me, right? Because of my
Sure.
demeanor or whatever. But when cases where it has come up, I bring it up, and most people tell me that wow, really? I never expected that, because I guess they expect this bad stuff in my childhood to have, affected me in some way. And it has. But the thing is that I decided, I remember there was a day where I decided, I sat there and I was thinking, I was I just never want to be the type of person who puts someone in this situation, right?
Yeah.
And I made a decision in myself, and I was just refined, and I had this energy, right, of I'm just going to be great. And I'm going to choose to be great. And every day I try to live my life being great. And I don't remember what caused that, but that spark can come from anything, I think, right? And someone can stumble upon your stream, and then they can see and just be I don't want to be that type of person that's described like this right now. I don't want to be like Joel. I don't want to be like anybody else. Or maybe I do want to be if you go over someone that's really healthy, right? I do want to be this character that I look up to and things like that. So,
right.
And I don't do any psychology on my stream. I like philosophy, though, and sometimes that comes up. But
sure.
I also agree with you in the sense of I started streaming because I wanted to do something fun with my friends, and I wanted to have a space where people could come and hang out and be cool and talk about games. And if people watch, they watch. If they don't watch, that's all right, too, because the few people that show up get to have a good time. And with friends, you remind me that, God, I'm so glad and so lucky to have the friends that I have that threw money at me for literally no reason when I was starting, just to see me do something incredibly stupid, and kind of still do that today. They just show up, and every time they think I've forgotten about their spontaneous generosity, they're just oh swoosh, and I'm just I'm not gonna complain about money, but you cut that out, you cut that out. So I know streaming's crazy, but
It is.
I want to focus a little bit more back on what you do, right? The video game therapist, specifically that.
Okay.
Although I do know you do the hundreds, right? And I think I'll ask about
That has been officially discontinued.
Okay. Last time I checked in with the hundred series, I think it was probably, now this is in a negative way, but probably for the best. With Plague Inc. being a.
I don't want to talk about Plague Inc.
we'll veto that.
No, of course we can talk about it. Yes, Hundreds was just 100% in games was something that I've always enjoyed doing. But what I began realizing over time was that I enjoyed doing it in spurts, like here and there, and having a scheduled time to say, okay, at this point in time, on this day, at this time, I'm going to 100% this game. It just, for some reason, that sapped all the fun out of it. And it felt like work, and I was starting to come out these streams, I'm like, oh, great, I have to play Plague Inc.
Again! Woo!
So, I figure if I'm not having fun, nobody's having fun.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Scrap it. So, video game therapist 100% of the time. I'll throw in little pieces here and there of playing with friends, playing random games.
The good stuff.
If I have a random urge to play something, I'll throw that in there too. But yeah, nothing else formal but the video game therapist.
Cool. So, speaking of which, I was wondering, what has been your easiest diagnosis? Something you just looked at it and you're like, oh, I gotcha. You got them pegged.
These are such good questions. I never thought about this before.
Thanks.
Ooh, that's easiest diagnosis. That's honestly a tie.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I'm thinking of two right now.
Okay.
The very first, and I mean very first game that I ever did for the video game therapist was Hellblade. And it was
Okay.
Sacrifice.
That makes sense. Great game too. I really enjoyed Hellblade.
Fantastic game. I actually played that on the 1-year anniversary of the stream. I did the entire game.
Oh, that's sweet.
Like all in a 24-hour stream. And we were able to come up with schizophreniform disorder. And I knew it was something in the neighborhood of schizophrenia, just from my own clinical experiences and from
Gameplay?
studying it in school and from gameplay.
Yeah.
So there's that one, but the diagnosis that probably jumped out most obviously to me, if it wasn't that, it was... Oh god, I'm forgetting his name. It was in and now I can't remember the name of the game.
Quick! Everybody stall!
Yeah. Stall for me. Oh my gosh, it was the game where you're exploring that old house.
Gone Home, or What Remains of Edith Finch?
What Remains of Edith Finch? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. That was gonna drive me bonkers. Okay. In What Remains of Edith Finch, one of the family members, I forget his exact name, but it's not super important. He had talked about working, again, I don't like this term, but a dead-end job, I think he described it as, where he was in a fish factory cutting the heads off of fish and throwing them in for processing for I think it was a tuna processing plant or whatever. And he had talked about being so bored on the line that he was imagining himself as this, fantastic prince of this foreign land who went off on all these great adventures.
Oh, some Walter Mitty type stuff.
Yeah. And he talked about it so instinctively, and the game is so beautifully done because the controls are beautiful, that you are actually in charge of chopping the heads off of fish as you're also being this prince on these adventures. You have to balance those two out, and it's fascinating because you start out and the majority of the screen is the fish, chopping the fish, and just a little bit of the screen over here is being the prince. But over time, the prince part starts to take over the fish part, And by muscle memory, you're still chopping the heads off of fish. But eventually, the whole screen is you just being this prince. And he starts talking about, I left my old life behind. I'm not this person anymore. I have split into someone else. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I never thought a game would be able to do dissociative identity disorder so well.
Wow.
But he talked about, he was this entirely new person, and the old person was gone or pushed down. I forget how they described it. But to be split off into some entirely new person, I'm thinking, I know what this is. I don't even have to get my DSM out. I know what this one is. So that was fascinating and really unexpected too.
That's really cool. I know that there's some points in games when I'm thinking about stuff like that too, and it's not necessarily with psychology, but just like the pieces line up, and you're just like, wow, this game this is the point the game was trying to make, and I just now got it, and it all makes sense.
Right.
Wow. So with that, I was gonna ask what your most difficult case has been, and then I thought of another question that was better than that, but I forgot it. So let's start with what your most difficult case has been, and I'm gonna think on what the better question was real quick. Shoot.
I'll stall for you. You
Thanks.
Think about it.
Thanks.
My most difficult case, honestly, is probably what we're playing through right now in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. To get to someone like me and to work with someone like a mental health professional over time, you need to have a diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not paying directly out of your own pocket, if you want insurance to cover it, you need a diagnosis. So a large part of what I try to focus on is how do I diagnose these people on the assumption that they want, my
help
services.
or your services, yeah.
And that's a big struggle for mental health providers is, this person obviously needs help, but they don't check quite all the boxes on here. How do I do this exactly? So it's been tough with Eivor in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. There are some behaviors that, in our modern view are abhorrent. The idea of going around and just killing people just because you want to take their stuff. But at the same time, you have to look, we're always taught to look at the culture, look at the time period, look at what is expected of someone. And in the culture, that is what is expected.
That's what they grew up with, right? That's all they've ever known.
That's what they were raised to do. That's what they were told to do by their parents. There were no laws against it. That was just how you survived. So it's been tough to really stick a diagnosis onto that one. I forget what diagnosis I officially gave off the top of my head. Might have been oppositional defiant disorder.
That's new. I don't know if I, at least by name.
Oppositional defiant disorder is a fun one. It's I had a professor in college once call it punk teenager disorder.
Ah, yes.
The diagnostic criteria for that one are two of the big ones are arguing with authority figures and refusing to comply with directives from authority.
Wait a second. Hold on. Wait a second. Am I a punk teenager?
Pretty much. I'm trying to remember the other. Being easily. Is it easy to make the person angry?
Oh, aggravated. Yeah. Like a short temper.
Are they acting in a spiteful way?
I'm
forgetting a handful of them.
Spite is huge for teenagers. I believe that one.
ODD got hugely overdiagnosed about 5-10 years ago. People started handing that out like candy. And it's tough because that's one of the diagnoses that can kind of stay with people. I minimize that as much as I can in my own practice. But it is hard because I've seen kids with that label before have that stick with them. and they might lose opportunities or they get prejudged.
Oh yeah, because they just believe, oh well, you have, you're hard to work with or something else like that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So I think that's what I gave Eivor.
Okay.
But
all right.
That's definitely been the hardest.
So. Well, I remember. Thanks for stalling. I remember the questions to ask. And we don't have too much more time here, but I feel like if this one runs a little long, it runs a little long because I like the conversation. So
okay.
I know that some games, I think Senua also got some backlash on how it was written, how people write mental health in the video game industry. Okay. Has there been situations where you've come across mental health written poorly, like a character that's diagnosed with something in game, or is implied to have some sort of disorder, but you just don't feel it quite matches up? And it doesn't have to be just on stream, but just like in television or anything. Have you as a professional, do you think this is actually a prevalent problem from what you've come across so far?
I see that as two different parts. So I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anybody really blow a diagnosis before. Nothing comes to mind in terms of any media, really. Games,
okay.
TV, movies, anything like that. Nothing is coming to mind. People told me that I should watch, James McAvoy in all those different personalities.
Split.
I never saw that, but it seemed accurate from the previews.
I like Split as a movie. I don't know if it's scientifically correct, but I like it as a movie.
It honestly kind of frustrates me whenever people say that mental health is not written well, especially in video games, because I know video games better than I know TV or movies, like by a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
But it honestly kind of frustrates me. I read a lot of the backlash from Senua, that the mental health was written poorly. And the core of the argument, at least from the pieces that I read, was that, I have my own mental health difficulties and my mental health difficulties don't line up with what you portrayed here, so your portrayal is wrong.
When everyone goes through things differently, right?
Exactly. You give me 100 people that have been diagnosed with schizophreniform disorder or major depressive disorder. You give me 100 people, and that is 100 unique experiences of the same mental health diagnosis, because everybody's life is so unique. So the whole idea that it's not true to form always kind of bothered me, because it honestly sounded like people were trying to, I don't know if virtue signal is the right word. It's just
I can't think of a good word too. No, it's okay. But I see the point you're getting at, and I feel like I feel like the problem would be if like the core, like it's not pinnacles, but maybe it's the pillars, the core pillars of what is, like telltale signs of this disorder or anything like that are incorrect, right? But I think also too, a lot of companies that do this, they hire advisors and like people, professionals in the industry, to help with the writing, so that way they don't portray something incorrectly, especially if they care about it, right? Like I felt like Senua, like the Ninja Theory cared about Senua and what was happening.
Absolutely.
That was their goal, was to tell a good story showcasing this. And if they got the telltale signs correct, then everything in between is kind of just personal anyways, right? Like
absolutely. See, I need you to follow me around to put my thoughts like into actual like speakable words, because I'm over here like floundering trying to explain myself, and you just explain that so beautifully.
Yes. I'm trying my best too. So I think we could honestly go even further into this, and I may have to bring you back around if you'll have me, so that we can dive a little deeper into this, because I think we'll need to have a second chat about this. But just to kind of finish up something nice, simple, easy.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to this year?
What am I looking forward to this year? Several games. the sequel of Hellblade. At least I thought in 2021. I might be wrong on that. I haven't looked in a while. I should look.
I also need to look.
The sequel to Hellblade, definitely. What else is out there? Well, really, the new consoles were the big thing, and I'm sitting here looking at my new Xbox and my new PlayStation, and I am a happy man.
You got one of each?
I did. I gotta be young and crazy.
Oh yeah, baby. I'm waiting until the summer to pick up. I'm probably gonna PlayStation just because the games on PlayStation I want to play more, right? But I think Xbox hands down won on the presentation. You opened both boxes, so you know, right?
I did.
Opening up the Xbox One is such a world of difference comparatively to opening up the PlayStation.
Absolutely.
Microsoft's presentation was very, very nice.
They did. I've always believed for a long time that Microsoft has a better infrastructure, but PlayStation has better games.
I can see that. And I feel like if we wanted to go into it, we could talk about that for times to come too. So, let the people know. Thanks for being here. Let them know where they can find you, and what to expect.
Yes, twitch.tv/SisterlyThrower. I am on at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every other night. Unless something horrible happens and I'm ill or internet fails, I'm on every other night. Video game therapist 100% of the time. I am... God only knows how many... what percentage of the way through Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Big game.
And be moving on to Dragon Age Inquisition.
Ooh, nice. Played. I played lightly, but from what I played, it seems like I would enjoy watching someone else play that game.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll be Valhalla now, Inquisition later. My most active social media, aside from Twitch, is definitely Twitter, where I post all sorts of inane ramblings that you can see in 140 characters or less, and on YouTube, trying to get a project off the ground right now. I really, really, truly love the Assassin's Creed series. So, I'm looking forward to launching the Perfect Solo Assassin.
Ooh, I like the name.
In which I complete everything that you can do solo across the Assassin's Creed game.
That sounds super neat. And I'll have all that stuff in the description. Please go ahead and check out Sisterly. You've already had a good preview of what to expect on here. I'm sure you're more than convinced. Thank you guys for coming out, for watching, for being around. Let us know what you thought. If you have any specific questions, what games you thought might be interesting. Are you a psychologist and you never thought of doing this? You're going to do it now? Let us know below. I want to know how many psychologists are watching my videos. So, I appreciate all of the support and love you guys give continuously. Take care of yourselves. Have a good one. And peace out.